Welcome to another episode of Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. Hi, I hope this email finds you well. My name is Lars Hansen, and I'm a 63-year-old Danish subscriber to your channel. I've been watching your videos for the past few months, and honestly, they've been helping me process what happened to me. I never thought I'd be writing to you with my own story, but after everything I've been through, I feel like I need to share this as a warning to other expats living in Thailand or considering retirement here. I'm writing this from my small apartment in Bangkok, still recovering from injuries that nearly killed me over a year ago. My hands still shake when I type about this, but I think it's important that people know the truth about what can happen when paradise turns into a nightmare. This isn't just another expat complaint story. This is about how the woman I loved for over 20 years tried to have me murdered for 10 million baht in life insurance money. I know that sounds like something from a movie, but I promise you, every word of this is true. The police reports, the hospital records, the court documents, it all exists. And if sharing my story can prevent even one person from making the mistakes I made, then reliving the trauma will be worth it. Let me start from the beginning. I met Nook in Copenhagen back in 1998. I was 40 years old, working as an engineer for a renewable energy company, and she was 25, working at a Thai restaurant in Norrebro. I know what you're thinking. Typical older Western man, younger Thai woman story, and you'd be partially right, but what we had felt real, at least in the beginning. Nook was different from the Danish woman I dated. She was warm, attentive, always smiling. She made me feel like the most important person in the world when we were together. We talked for hours about everything. Her childhood in Nakhon Sawan province, my dreams of early retirement, the life we could build finally together. Within 6 months, we were married. Within 2 years, we had our first child, a beautiful daughter named Sophie. Our son, Michael, came 3 years later. For nearly 2 decades, we lived what I thought was a good life in Denmark. Nook worked part-time at a Thai grocery store, managed our household, and raised our children. I climbed the career ladder, saved aggressively, and planned for the retirement I'd always dreamed of. We visited Thailand every year or two, spending time with Nook's family in their village. Her parents were rice farmers, simple people who always seemed happy to see us despite the language barrier. Looking back now, I realize I was blind to so many red flags, or maybe I just didn't want to see them. By 2019, I was ready to retire early at 60. I'd saved nearly 4 million Danish kroner, about 20 million baht, and Nook had been increasingly vocal about wanting to move back to Thailand permanently. Our kids were grown, both attending university in Denmark. The idea of spending our retirement years in the warm Thai countryside, away from the cold Danish winters and high cost of living, seemed perfect. "We can buy so much land, Lars," Nook would tell me, her eyes lighting up. "Build a beautiful house, live like royalty. Your pension will go so far in Thailand." She painted such a beautiful picture. Fresh fruit from our own trees, a peaceful life surrounded by rice paddies, weekly trips to the local market, becoming part of her village community. I'd always been charmed by Thailand during our visits. The friendly people, the delicious food, the laid-back lifestyle. Why not spend my golden years there? In early 2020, just before COVID-19 changed the world, we made the move. We didn't sell our small apartment in Copenhagen. I insisted on keeping that as a safety net. But we transferred most of our savings to Thailand. Nook was ecstatic. Finally, she was going home. We bought approximately 30 rai of land, about 48,000 square meters, in her home district of Ban Phot Pisai, just outside the provincial capital of Nakhon Sawan. The land cost us about 18 million baht, a massive investment that represented most of our life savings. We planned to develop it gradually. Maybe grow rice, plant fruit orchards, eventually build a larger house for ourselves and a few rental bungalows for passive income. Here's where I made my first massive mistake. I put everything in Nook's name. I know. Every expat forum in existence warns against this. But my lawyer in Denmark had explained that foreigners couldn't own land in Thailand. And Nook was my wife of 20 years, the mother of my children. I trusted her completely. We had built a life together in Denmark. Why would Thailand be any different? The first few months were actually wonderful. We renovated a small house on the property, got to know the neighbors, and settled into village life. I was learning basic Thai, cycling around the countryside, enjoying the simple pleasures of rural living. Nook seemed happy to be back among her people, speaking her language every day. Then COVID-19 hit hard, and suddenly we were stuck. The borders closed, travel became nearly impossible, and Denmark felt a world away. Our kids couldn't visit. My friends back home might as well have been on another planet. We were isolated in a rural Thai village with lockdowns, curfews, and mounting tensions. That's when things started to change. Nook began spending more time with her family and less time with me. Her sister, brother, and various cousins were constantly at our house, speaking rapid Thai I couldn't follow. They'd go quiet when I entered the room, then resume talking the moment I left. When I asked Nook what they were discussing, she'd just say family business and change the subject. Money became a constant source of arguments. Nook's relatives always seemed to need something. Money for a sick buffalo, a broken motorbike, a child's school fees, a new roof. At first, I didn't mind helping out. That's what family does, right? But the requests never stopped, and Nook would get angry if I questioned any of them. You don't understand Thai culture, she'd snap at me. Family helps family. This is not Denmark. She was right. I didn't understand. But I was starting to feel like an ATM rather than a husband. By early 2022, our relationship had deteriorated significantly. We barely spoke except to argue. Nook had become cold, distant. She'd sleep in a different room most nights, claiming the air conditioning bothered her. The warm, attentive woman I'd married had been replaced by someone I barely recognized. In February of 2022, Nook dropped the bomb. I want divorce, she told me one morning over coffee, just like that. No emotion, no preamble. I was stunned. What? Why? What's happened? I'm not happy. We're too different. I want my own life. No, we've been married for over 20 years. We have children together. We can work through this. No, I want divorce, and I want half of everything. This is where things got complicated. In Denmark, divorce is straightforward. You file papers, divide assets, move on. But in Thailand, I learned, if one spouse doesn't consent to the divorce, it becomes incredibly difficult. You need to prove fault, adultery, abuse, abandonment. We had none of that. We just had a marriage that had stopped working. I need to think about this, I told her. This is a huge decision. I wasn't trying to trap her or be cruel. I just needed time to process everything, to understand what had gone wrong, to figure out how we'd divide assets fairly given that everything was in her name. I had trusted her with millions of baht in land and property. If we divorced, what would happen to my life savings? But Nook didn't want to wait. She became increasingly hostile. She'd ignore me for days, then explode in rage over small things. She moved permanently into the other bedroom. She stopped cooking, stopped maintaining the house, stopped pretending we were still married in any meaningful way. Give me the divorce, Lars, she'd demand almost daily. Just sign papers. Give me half money and go back to Denmark. Half of what money, Nook? Everything is in your name already. What exactly am I signing? That's when I noticed she'd become obsessed with our life insurance policy. About 6 months after moving to Thailand, Nook had convinced me to take out a substantial life insurance policy. She'd heard about it from someone at the local bank and insisted it was essential. If something happens to you, Lars, what happens to me? To our property? We need protection. It made sense at the time. I was 60 years old, living in a developing country with questionable healthcare access. Having 10 million baht in life insurance coverage seems like a reasonable planning. Nook was listed as a sole beneficiary, but now, during these divorce arguments, she kept bringing it up. You know that insurance policy we have, she'd say casually. That's good protection for family. At least the children will be secure if something happens. That policy could solve many problems. At the time, I thought she was just being morbid or trying to make a point about financial security. I never imagined what she was actually planning. April 21st, 2022. A date I'll never forget. It was a beautiful morning, clear blue sky, not too hot yet. I'd gotten into the habit of taking long bicycle rides around the countryside most mornings. It helped clear my head, gave me time away from the tension at home, and kept me in reasonable shape. I'd usually ride for an hour or two through the rice paddies and small villages around our property. That morning, I was about 5 kilometers from home on a quiet rural road. There was almost no traffic, maybe one motorbike every few minutes, the occasional pickup truck. I was enjoying the peace, watching farmers in their fields, when I heard an engine behind me. I glanced back and saw a gray Toyota sedan approaching faster than normal for that road. I moved further to the shoulder to give it room to pass, but it didn't pass. The sound of the engine got louder, closer. I looked back again, and in that split second, I realized the car wasn't trying to avoid me. It was aiming directly at me. I tried to swerve, but there was nowhere to go. The car slammed into me from behind at what must have been 70 or 80 kilometers per hour. I remember the impact, a massive, crushing force that felt like being hit by a train. I remember flying through the air. I remember hitting the ground hard and seeing my bicycle cartwheeling away and into a rice paddy. Then everything went black. I woke up 3 days later in Nakhon Sawan hospital in Nakhon Sawan city. Every part of my body was screaming in pain. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't breathe properly. Tubes and wires connected me to machines that beeped and hummed. A doctor was standing over me, speaking Thai. I could barely understand for the fog of pain and medication. Accident. Very lucky. Broken back. Ribs. Over the next few hours, as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I learned the extent of my injuries. 3 crushed vertebrae in my lower back, 6 broken ribs, a punctured lung, severe head trauma, and various lacerations and contusions. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. The impact should have killed me instantly. Where was Nook? I kept asking for her, but the nurses just looked uncomfortable and said she'd visit soon. On my 4th day in the hospital, 2 police officers came to my room. One of them spoke decent English. "Mr. Hansen, we need to talk to you about your accident." "Okay," I managed to croak out. "I don't remember much. Is the driver being charged?" The officers exchanged a glance. "Mr. Hansen, this was not an accident. We arrested 3 people 2 days ago for attempted murder. One of them is your wife." I honestly thought I'd misheard. The pain medication was strong. Maybe I was hallucinating. "What? No, that can't be right. There must be a mistake." But there was no mistake. Over the next hour, despite my protests and disbelief, the police laid out the entire plot. The driver of the Toyota was a 24-year-old man named Somchai Wichachan. He was Nook's aunt's nephew, part of her extended family. After the crash, he'd fled the scene but had been quietly identified from witness descriptions and the abandoned vehicle. When police brought Somchai in for questioning, the forensic evidence didn't match an accident scenario. The trajectory of the collision, the speed, the lack of any brake marks, it all pointed to intentional vehicular homicide. Under intense interrogation, Somchai broke down and confessed everything. Nook's aunt, a 60-year-old woman named Suda Kam Kao, had approached him 3 weeks earlier with a proposition: kill the Danish husband and receive a brand new car as payment. Suda explained that Nook wanted her husband dead and would share the insurance money, 10 million baht, with everyone involved. Somchai's cut would have been 800,000 baht plus the car. Somchai had agreed. He'd spent 2 weeks studying my routine, learning my cycling routes, waiting for the perfect opportunity. April 21st was supposed to be the day I died, made to look like a tragic traffic accident, a foreign retiree hit by a careless driver. Sadly, common enough in Thailand that it wouldn't raise suspicion. But I survived, and the forensic investigation revealed the truth. When confronted with Somchai's confession and the bank records showing 500,000 baht transferred from her account to Suda's account 2 weeks before the attack, Nook couldn't deny her involvement. My wife, the woman I had been married to for 24 years, the mother of my children, the person I trusted with everything I owned, had hired her own family members to murder me for insurance money. I think I went into shock. The police were talking, explaining the charges, the evidence, but I couldn't process any of it. This couldn't be real. This was some horrible nightmare I'd wake up from. But it wasn't. The physical recovery has been long and painful. I spent 7 weeks in that hospital, undergoing 3 surgeries on my back. I learned to walk again with a walker, then a cane. I still have chronic pain that will probably never fully go away. My left leg doesn't work quite right, and I get debilitating headaches several times a week. But the physical injuries are nothing compared to the psychological trauma. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. Had Nok ever loved me? Or had I just been a ticket out of poverty? Were our children part of a long-term plan to secure a future? Or had they been genuine? When did she start hating me enough to want me dead? Was it when I refused a divorce? Or had she been planning this for longer? I replay our entire relationship in my mind, looking for clues I missed. That time in 2015 when she pushed hard for me to increase my life insurance, was that early planning? The way she'd grown distant over the past few years? Was she emotionally detaching so she could go through with the murder? Every memory is now tainted with suspicion and doubt. The Danish embassy helped me get a lawyer and navigate the Thai legal system. Nook, Suda, and Somchai were all charged with conspiracy to commit murder. The trial happened faster than I expected. Thai courts apparently take attempted murder pretty seriously, especially when there's clear evidence and confessions. All 3 were convicted. Somchai received 8 years, Suda got 12, Nook received 15 years in prison. 15 years. She'll be 63 when she gets out, the same age I am now. The legal situation regarding our assets is still ongoing and incredibly complicated. Under Thai law, I should be entitled to reclaim my money since Nook is a convicted felon who tried to kill me. But because everything was in her name, proving that it was actually my money is difficult. I need bank records from Denmark showing the transfers, proof that I purchased the land, documentation of everything. My Thai lawyer is confident we'll eventually recover most of the assets, but it's been over a year and we're still fighting through the bureaucracy. In the meantime, Nook's family has been occupying the property, refusing to leave. They claim Nook gave them permission to stay there before her arrest. Getting them evicted requires yet another legal process. I spent nearly 800,000 baht on lawyers, medical bills, and living expenses while this drags on. The life insurance policy was cancelled, obviously. You don't get to collect life insurance when you're caught trying to murder the insured person. I'm living in a modest apartment in Bangkok now, surviving on my Danish pension and dwindling savings. I'm 63 years old, partially disabled, emotionally shattered, and fighting a legal battle that could take years to resolve. This was not how I imagined spending my retirement. I've had a lot of time to think about what went wrong and what lessons other expats can take from my catastrophe. Some of these might sound paranoid or cynical, but they might save your life. First, never put major assets entirely in your Thai partner's name. Yes, foreigners can't own land in Thailand, but there are legal structures, 30-year leases, usufruct agreement, proper prenuptial agreements that can protect your investment. Consult a good international lawyer before moving money. Number 2, keep life insurance reasonable and consider removing your spouse as the sole beneficiary if the relationship deteriorates. Being worth more dead than alive is a dangerous position to be in anywhere, but especially in a country where you don't fully understand the culture and legal system. Number 3, maintain financial independence and access to funds outside of Thailand. I kept our Copenhagen apartment, and that safety net has saved me. If I'd sold everything, I'd be completely destitute right now. Number 4, be realistic about cultural differences and power dynamics. The age gap, the wealth gap, the cultural gap, these aren't insurmountable, but they require honest communication and realistic expectations from both partners. Number 5, trust your instincts. I ignored so many red flags because I didn't want to seem suspicious or paranoid. When the person you love starts acting differently, when money becomes a constant source of conflict, when you feel isolated and controlled, these are serious warning signs. Learn the language. My inability to speak Thai beyond basic phrases left me isolated and unable to understand what was happening around me. I was dependent on Nook to translate and interpret everything, which gave her enormous power. Maintain connections to your home country and don't become completely dependent on your partner for everything. The pandemic isolation made everything worse because I had no support system except Nook and her family. If a relationship is ending, accept it and protect yourself legally rather than trying to hold on. My refusal to immediately agree to the divorce wasn't malicious, but it created a situation where Nook felt trapped and desperate. In retrospect, I should have consulted a lawyer immediately and worked out a fair separation agreement. Be aware that violent crime for financial gain, including within families, happens more than expats might realize. This wasn't some unique, unprecedented crime. My lawyer told me there are several similar cases every year. Thai partners murdering or attempting to murder foreign spouses for insurance money or inheritance. Most importantly, trust and love are beautiful things, but they should never be blind. Verify, document, protect yourself legally, and recognize that a relationship can change dramatically over time. I'm still in Thailand, oddly enough. Part of it is practical. I need to be here to fight the legal battles over our assets. Part of it is pride. I refuse to let Nok and her family chase me out of a country and steal everything I work for. And part of it is that despite everything, I still find Thailand beautiful and most Thai people kind and welcoming. What happened to me wasn't Thailand's fault. It was the fault of specific people who chose greed and violence. I've received tremendous support from Thai friends, neighbors who testified at the trial, police officers who worked hard to uncover the truth, and medical staff who saved my life. I've been seeing a therapist via video calls with someone in Denmark. I'm slowly rebuilding my physical strength. I'm learning to be alone after spending my entire adult life in a relationship. Some days are better than others. My children have been incredibly supportive, though I can tell this has damaged their relationship with their mother beyond repair. They visit when they can, and we video chat regularly. They've encouraged me to start dating again eventually, but I can't even imagine trusting someone romantically after this. Maybe someday. I've also started connecting with other expats in Bangkok. sharing my story and hearing theirs. I'm not the only one who's been burned by a relationship in Thailand, though my case might be one of the more extreme examples. There's an entire community of foreign men and some women who've lost money, property, and sometimes their safety to partners they trusted. I'm writing this to your channel because I wish someone had told me a story like this before I made my decisions. Not to scare me away from Thailand or from intercultural relationships, but to make me more cautious, more informed, more protective of myself while still being open to love and adventure. The truth is, most expat relationships in Thailand probably work out fine. Most Thai partners are genuine, loving, and not scheming to murder their spouses for insurance money. But some aren't, and the consequences of being wrong can be devastating or fatal. If my story can make even one person pause before putting all their assets in their partner's name, or make someone reevaluate their relationship where they feel controlled or isolated, or prompt someone to get proper legal protections in place, then something good will have come from this nightmare. I also want other expats who've been through trauma to know they're not alone. The shame, the self-blame, the feeling of being stupid or naive, I've felt all of it. It's easy to look back and see the mistakes clearly, but we made decisions based on love and trust, and there's nothing shameful about that. The people who betrayed us are the ones who should feel shame. Paradise exists, but it's not a place. It's a state of mind, a way of living authentically and safely while being open to love and new experiences. Thailand can still be paradise for expats, but only if we go into it with our eyes open, our legal protections in place, and our boundaries clearly established. I don't regret moving to Thailand or marrying Nook, even now. I have 2 wonderful children from that relationship, and I had many happy years before everything fell apart. What I regret is my naivety, my willingness to ignore warning signs, and my failure to protect myself legally. I hope my story serves as a cautionary tale, but also a story of survival. I'm still here. I'm healing, both physically and emotionally. I'll eventually recover my assets and rebuild my life. Nook thought she could have killed me and get away with it, but she failed. Justice was served, and I'm determined to thrive, not just survive. Thank you for reading this extremely long email. I know it's quite a story, but I wanted to provide all the context and details. Feel free to share any of or all of this on your channel if you think it would help your viewers. I'm happy to answer follow-up questions or provide documentation if needed. You have my permission to use the story, though I'd appreciate if you could keep using the pseudonyms I provided rather than my real name. I'm still living in Bangkok and dealing with legal matters, and I'd prefer to maintain some privacy. For anyone reading or watching this, be careful out there. Protect yourself. Trust wisely. And remember that being worth more dead than alive is never a good position to be in. Stay safe, and thank you for the work you do sharing these important stories. Best regards, Lars Hansen, Bangkok, Thailand survivor. Thank you.